Good morning from wintry Buffalo. I know, April 8th. Mike Shope here, Pat Corain, Davis Maddock, Jacob Sanderson will join me in moments. What a sports week, from Alex Ovechkin's record-breaking goal to the tournament to the Masters. A lot of fun. NFL, why we're here, the calm before the storm. We'll talk NFL draft 2 weeks and change away. Risers and fallers and rookies, oh my. We'll get into everybody's ownership shares at this point, get on the record, and talk about ball. So let's go. Pat, Davis, Jacob, Mike, thanks for watching and listening. ADP Chasing, April 8th, 2025.
In Underdog Best Ball, ADP is set by two separate yet equally important groups: streamers that set the market and the slappies that chase it. These are their stories.
Hello again. Davis in St. Louis, Pat in San Diego, Jacob in Portugal. Where exactly, and how's the trip?
Currently on São Miguel Island in the Azores, or as they call it here, the Azores. And
Look
so
at you.
it's been great. Been out here for 9 days in various cities in and around Portugal, having a great time. Listened to some ship chasing episodes while I was gone, while walking the various rivers and oceans. It's been terrific.
How was your form when you were walking? Were your feet pointing out, or were they pointing?
Yeah, I had to pay a lot of attention. You know, I had to look at the health app, see if it would tell me whether I was pigeon-toed or duck-footed. I had to look it up multiple times to see what LeBron James was exactly and how that affected my walking pace. Really made me rethink Harold Fannin. You know, I as kind of a Fannin bear, listening to you and Ben just like stuff Fannin bears in lockers for 30 consecutive minutes made me feel pretty bad about myself, and I had to move him up a tier.
It's rare that I can pitch you that way on a. Usually you have me covered on kind of the obvious upside guys, so that's nice. I'm glad I was able
normally you're the one who gets giga bullish on the obvious, like, don't overthink it guy.
Yeah,
but someone commented on our stream that we did last Friday who is duck-footed, and he's basically like,
quack,
if it's a structural thing, there's nothing you can do. There's not, like, it just is what it is. If it's like a gait thing, it can be fixed. But probably what's going to happen is he will just tear his ACL or his MCL at some point.
That's like when people were like, why did you have 2% Saquon Barkley this year? I said it's a structural thing. There's nothing you can do.
Structural. You know, it just is what it is. There's absolutely nothing that can be done. You just got to live with it.
Eventually it'll correct itself.
Yeah.
It might take a few years.
Yeah. Maybe it'll tear its ACL and then I'll be fine.
We have our first slide of Jacob on the plane, or it's a picture of a plane. Get me to God's country. That's what I need, because in New York, I'm stone dead with Underdog at this point. I mean, it's been years since I sort of wake up in the morning and look at active drafts, and I've got nothing. So time to get on that 1 hour, 19-minute drive to just past the Pennsylvania state line. There's a fireworks shop waiting for you right when you cross that border. They're trying to sell you some fireworks, 365 days a year. We sit there and we'll have to load up some slow drafts.
Is there a train? Is there a train you can take? I feel like the train would make it so, because then you can get work done. You can send emails. You could do whatever. Driving, brutal.
It's too short.
That's why I made 3 thinking about thinking posts on this trip. It's just like every time I get on a train, I just download all of my charts beforehand, and then I just get to typing. And then I'm like, all right, I need 15 minutes of Wi-Fi to post this at the train station, and it's been a great system.
That's awesome.
The only train I've been on, I'm thinking probably 30 years, was one of these little Polar Express kid rides that just goes up and back a couple of times and gets you in the mood for Christmas. So maybe it's time I get on a train, Davis. You might have a point here.
Yeah.
You haven't taken the Amtrak in your life?
do.
What are you saying right now?
I took an Amtrak from Buffalo to New York City when I was 18 to see the Mets for a weekend with a friend. That's the only time I've ever taken a train ride.
We really need better public transportation in this country.
Well, let's turn.
Taking a train since he was a wee boy.
No, like
Should we
why
podcast
would I
about the abundance agenda?
Why would I need a train?
I would like more trains. Is that a problem to have?
Jacob's over there in Europe where they have 50 trains to
We have
America's
so
one.
many trains.
Yeah,
I've never
seems
seen
like
more
a better
trains in my life.
system.
Everywhere is a train in Europe. I mean, what do I need a train
And
for?
Amtrak is a mess. I used to take the Amtrak fairly frequently between Kansas
Amtrak's
City
terrible,
and St. Louis, and also from St. Louis to Chicago. But I pretty much vowed never again because I was taking a multi-week trip, flew from Michigan to Kansas City for a buddy's wedding. We were going to take the Amtrak back to St. Louis, and they just canceled. No refund, no different time. Just you're stuck in Kansas City, bud. So enjoy it.
That might be a Kansas City Amtrak thing. That's in New York City. They would have given you a refund, I think.
Maybe.
I've taken the Amtrak a lot. The thing with Amtrak is that it's terrible, but also driving down I-95 is terrible.
Also
so if you need
terrible.
to get south of New York, Amtrak's still your best option, but it's just like you're just going to have a bad time. That's why people tend to stay in the city.
On memory of mine, but we did the Sunday game, 3-game set Mets Reds at Shea, 1990. The Sunday game, I mean, you could check this, but I know I'm right. There was a rain delay, and it was summer, but it was super cold rain. And my friend and I, we came all this way. We're just going to wait this out. We end up staying for the game. I'm not sure we made it to the end because we knew we had to leave, and we missed our train home. So maybe I'm scarred by the last time I was on a train.
That was and did you say to yourself, "This is the last time I'm ever taking a train"?
Maybe at 18. How profound at 18 to have that sort of foresight.
You made it.
I am done here, and of course, you guys are 18 as we speak.
Basically, Jacob is basically.
Jacob's basically 18,
Jacob's a child.
David, you're like 5 years older than me.
Jacob,
4 years.
Will you take a train later in your life once you turn 19?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to so many trains. In a few years, I might even be able to order a drink while on the train. It's going to be incredible.
All right, that's fair. I did want to talk about the tournament really quick. Here we go with exposures, if that's all right. I know we like it when we go long on the show, but also Davis has a hard out today. I don't know about Jacob, from Canada. Do you guys get sentimental for the tournament? I did. I
don't even watch. Once I'm dead and all my contests, I haven't watched since the Elite Eight because I was not going to win my big pool. So what's the point?
Yeah. That's how I am too.
watched...
But I have a friend who was an associate head coach for Florida, like I mentioned last week. So I stayed with Florida, and I was in tears last night.
I haven't watched since the Elite Eight because the game started about midnight here.
Yeah.
So that's been limiting. I did stay up to watch Leafs Panthers actually at midnight last week. So that's really, I guess, where I'm allowing my priorities. But I love the tournament. It's the best. Historically, I've made up like different fake illnesses for the first Thursday and Friday every single year that I've ever had a job. And then now I tend to just give one of the partners like my best bets each day, and then I work from home.
Nice.
Valid.
Good.
Yeah.
Pat, you or is this the same as hockey?
No, I used to watch the tournament like religiously, but I didn't really watch much this year. I think Duke being good, I don't want to see Duke win, so I just
lost.
didn't.
They lost in like really embarrassing fashion.
I know. I'm sorry to have missed that, but I didn't really watch much of it.
Okay.
You're a Patriots fan now. You should start to embrace Duke as well.
Well, also to be fair, the game started at midnight for me, which is 8:00. For me, 8 p.m. Central Time is effectively midnight. So
this time it's derogatory. You're 4 years older than me. Like what are we doing?
Yeah, derogatory. Valid.
All right, you want to get right into these here? So
let's do it.
This is where we stand, either exactly or generally, with what is it now? 16 days until the NFL draft. I picked out a couple names from each of yours lists that I think were like the most interesting. And I went by whose I saw first. So Davis submitted his first. I mean, there's no prize for that, but that's kind of how I sort of made notes. And I mean, I don't know if you want to start a show with Marvin Mims, but I wanted to hear, I sort of want to sort of challenge you guys on a few of these names, and I'm happy to do the same, but I usually get sort of my stuff from you. Mims Davis, why is he so interesting to you?
So he's probably a break-even pick if he just runs back the same annoying role that he's been in. He's the wide receiver 56 at a time when wide receivers are priced all the way up. Like when Cooper Kupp is a top 90 pick as like the backup slot wide receiver for a run first team. Then you also have the giga breakout of the Broncos don't take a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds. They are not able to find Marquez Callaway. Like, maybe Marquez Callaway is a private detective in Portugal now or something, because the only competition on Lil Jordan Humphrey, who played the 3rd most snaps at wide receiver for the Broncos last year, is now a tight end on the Giants. That is true. Look it up. That's real. So his competition is 30-year-old Cortland Sutton, also 30-year-old Devon Vele, Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman, a rookie running back for targets. I mean, I think we're probably going to see Mims open this season at the snap share that he ended last season with. And he's also actually good. So like when he's played, he's just been good. So you've got you can win the bet 2 ways. You can win the bet on efficiency the same way you won it last year. Mims was a winning pick last year, or you win it on he's just the 72% route share for like a relatively efficient offense.
How much winning did I do last year by drafting him? By the way,
what do you have? 32 points in the final, I think.
You came really close, like in week 16, and then he went because I think he had 2 almost touchdowns.
He had 16,
and then he had a couple of real touchdowns in week 17.
Okay. By the way, in fairness to Lil Jordan Humphrey, everybody eventually becomes a tight end at camp with the New York Giants. Kelvin Benjamin is one name here. Maybe Tyree Jackson, who was the University of Buffalo quarterback, or he was Philadelphia. But anyway, all right. Well, I have some Mims because of basically boiling it down. There's not really anyone else that's that interesting. And if you like the offense, you can like Mims.
Yeah, I've had a harder time getting excited about Mims, but I think it's because like he was in that like specialized role last year where they're using him out of the backfield and kind of on go balls, and
it's kind of like a fun role. You just you need him to get like 10 more routes a game than he got last year.
I don't mind Mims. Like I feel this way too about Wicks. Like some of the like younger, more interesting guys that aren't rookies, I'm just struggling to get a lot of right now because I'm just trying to click rookies instead. So it's like usually where I would take someone like a Mims and other interesting guys there, I'm preferring to just like scattershot my way through rookies as much as possible.
Yeah, he's expensive enough where I often feel like wide receiver, like it's not just Mims, but when I'm seeing wide receivers in that range, I'm like, well, I'll come back later. Either the wide receiver.
Yeah. And for me, I think it's like a giga cliff after him where I'm like, I can't really see any of these guys. Like I can't see Romeo Doubs being the guy.
See, I actually have a decent amount of Romeo Doubs.
I think Doubs is like 70% I would score Mims.
Yeah.
You know what?
He has a role.
You might very well be right. At a median projection, like if I was to pull up Mike Clay's projections right now, I'd bet my last dollar he's got Doubs for like 1.7 points more per game than Marvin Mims. I'd also bet my last dollar Romeo Doubs is not going to eclipse 12.7 fantasy points per game in like any season for the Green Bay Packers.
There are some pretty good names that go under him for me. Like right now at Underdog, he's right above Keon Coleman. There's still a chance for
Coleman.
I mean, Hollywood Brown, Keenan Allen.
Oh, I love Hollywood Brown. That's like
Hollywood
Brown's the exact
same
bet that he was last year, like 8 rounds cheaper for some reason.
Hollywood's a better pick. Yeah, Hollywood's a better pick.
One of my concerns with Mims as we head into the draft is that like I think if they draft like RJ Harvey, that could be a problem for him. Like it's not just.
I mean, they have no incumbents basically.
They will throw the ball to the running back constantly.
The incumbent in the backfield is Jaleel McLaughlin. Like they're yeah.
But it's a great running back class. So I don't know. I guess I'm just like worried about what his role actually is this year.
You do have the return element. You do have the return element, by the way. Sorry, Pat, but like
that's true.
If returns kick up, Mims is in a good spot there if he can, break a few.
Let me give you the comp. The comp that I would give you would be Devery Henderson, Ted Ginn, guys like that, but like as a good player. Like maybe our difference here is I just think Mims is great. Like if he were to if he were to play a full route share, I'd be like, well, I think if he and Sutton both play full routes, he'll outscore Sutton. I think he's really good. Yeah.
Jacob, no?
Not for me. I don't know. That's like, I think Mims is pretty limited. I think he's actually used quite well last year. Like if you look at the reception perception stuff from year one, it was like rancidly bad. And he was super efficient on a per catch per target basis, but he wasn't really
a child.
That
He was
much
20.
volume.
He had to learn.
His yards per hour was
I
really good
like,
last year. I'll give you that.
No, his
2.37.
Ninth in the NFL.
That's partially because he's being used
in a weird way,
in a very specialized role that feeds him targets when he's on the field. So like when he's out there, he's a focal point. I don't know. I think he's basically just being used well. And I don't like the tag on Mims, but I've drafted way less than you guys. So.
Well,
yeah, I should probably get more. I definitely, I don't have like that much Knicks, and having Knicks would be one of the main reasons. Because I think Knicks is overpriced. Not like we talked about this, Davis.
Yeah.
When we were streaming together, it's not crazy how he's priced, but it's a little rich. Yeah.
Yeah, that like the front of that quarterback group is really hard for me to sell myself on because I just
what
like
if
I'm getting
what if
similar
he's
bets
what if he's
to a
Devery
Knicks or
Henderson
Baker several rounds later.
Yeah.
What if he's Devery Henderson and Darren Sproles in one guy?
But Omarion Hampton's about to be Darren Sproles, and
I mean,
Mark
frankly,
Ingram.
I just want to see if they don't add a Darren Sproles. You know what I mean?
We all need to settle on the Omarion Hampton. He's very fine.
Everybody has Hampton on their list. Like that's the one. That was the one name.
He's been a value.
Yeah, he's an absolute value. Yeah, I imagine you include him on mine. Come on, show. What are you, Rodney Hampton?
No, all four of us have Hampton, like above market. Not every name we submitted is on this list, but still, like Jacob is the one who gets the Hampton credit on the board here.
And I don't even know if he's actually my highest exposure. Peek behind the curtain. I go into my Underdog app to check my exposures, and I'm logged out and I can't log in because Portugal doesn't have Underdog. So I got to do what everybody wants to do, which is not actually post the real exposures, but just post what they think / want their exposures to be.
Oh, nice.
So that's just a true treat. I just get to lie on the internet.
This is what you feel today, and therefore it is what you have drafted for
this
many.
This is like what I would like my
Although,
exposures to be, and what I think
what
that they might be.
If what you feel about yourself is that your wide receiver room is Chris Olave, Jaylen Waddle, and Christian Kirk, I'm worried for you, man.
Yeah,
that has got to be the top 3 cuck wide receivers in fantasy football history.
Those are the wide receivers if someone has to go to Portugal to find themselves.
I'm watching Saxon get it on with Chloe, and I'm in the Gary chair just drafting Chris Olave and Jaylen Waddle.
I mean, that is tremendous stuff, dude. That's like all 3 guys. That's like all 3 of the top.
You cannot get this type of career targets and yards per route run in round 6 just off the street. I mean, come on. You got to get some Olave and Waddle.
I take Olave plenty, and I take Kirk, although he's moved up. Waddle's the guy. Waddle has been a tough click for me.
But Hill's not going to be on this team.
Really?
I don't think Hill's going to be a Miami Dolphin in week 1. That's my Waddle stance.
Okay.
If I'm wrong in that, then maybe it goes poorly. But I think there's a chance that Hill is off this team and Waddle is like a 30% target share dominant for the Dolphins this year, and you can get him in like round 5-6.
Jacob,
that certainly makes him a lot more interesting.
What happens? Like he's injured too. Like what happens? Do they trade him or is he? What happens?
Tyreek Hill? I have no idea, but like I think he's equally likely to be on the Dolphins, retired on another team in jail. Like he's not like. He just doesn't seem like he's like with the program right now. Like no part of that seems like it's going well for them. Like every once in a while, it's like, oh, everything's settled. We're not going to trade him. But then he like posts a bunch of crazy things on social media. I mean, he walked off the field in their last game. Like he just didn't want to play anymore. That seemed alarming to me. So I've been operating under the assumption it's at least 50-50 of whether he's a Miami Dolphin for at least maybe even if not week 1, that he maybe then leaves partway through the season. Like I could see I could see trade deadline. I could see disciplinary suspension. I think the Antonio Brown arc is within his grasp this season, is what I'm saying.
That was a range of outcomes right there. Traded, disciplinary, not there, jail. That was a range of outcomes.
Jail feels unfair.
Like,
he was already unfairly arrested once last season. We don't need to make that like a yearly tradition.
I'm sure it was not fair.
Here's the other thing. Like, I know people don't
broke his
like
wrist
him
or whatever
because he's been like, I understand the Waddle's disappointed people recently, but like, he is good. Like, he's good at the game. I think. Like, isn't he still good? I don't know. Maybe like.
Yeah,
I
don't know, man.
Anytime I bring up Waddle, people are like, gross, ew, puke, disgusting. How dare you? And I don't know. I guess my opinion of him just hasn't really changed that much based on like they ran this totally non-functional offense last year around a running back and a tight end. I just can't imagine that's actually how they want to run their offense if they had their choice.
The concerning thing to me about Waddle is that last year, the kind of like what they're trying to do isn't working. And Tyreek is, it's starting. I imagine him walking off the field wasn't like the first thing that happened, on the team. And they pivot to let's throw Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane a million tiny short targets. Now, I think that was mostly related to the offensive line, them not being able to protect. They got to get the ball out as quickly as possible. Those guys run shorter routes. But it does seem bad to me that like Hill's efficiency craters and Waddle's like craters like in tandem. Like they're coming down together, and Hill is still the number one. Like even though he's like not at all what he was the year before, he's still way ahead of Waddle. Waddle was borderline useless for a lot of last year. It does feel low floor to me.
But you have last year, you had this is why I'm still confident in Waddle's talent. Because prior to last year, we had no reason to believe anything except that Waddle was somewhere between very good to great. Like all of his per route stuff, all the film stuff, everything was very bullish prior to last year. And last year is the big down year. But we also see Hill's stuff crater at the same time Waddle's stuff craters, at the same time that Achane's efficiency craters. And then all of that is just replaced by Achane and Jonnu PPR scam. And so like I find it hard to believe that Tyreek, Waddle, and Achane all just became way worse football players at the exact same time immediately. I think it's more likely they had a non-functional offensive line. Matt McDaniel had this rigid offense that he's tried to build around Tua, and it just wasn't working anymore. And then his whole season got disrupted because Tua got hurt. And when he comes back, they're trying to make up time, and they're just kind of doing what was kind of sort of working. So I think they're going to have a better plan to operate a more real NFL offense. And I think that we're getting a pretty big discount on a big piece of that in Jaylen Waddle in a way that we're not really getting, I think, on anybody else in that Dolphins scenario. And
let's see if there's any news on the Dolphins offensive line. Oh, Teron Armstead retired. Is that good or bad?
Like the draft's coming up.
They're going to take a tackle. They're going to take a tackle at 12.
I hope so, man.
I mean, they're probably going to take about 6 linemen.
Maybe it's good. Houston had a bad offensive line, and its decision was to get rid of everybody. So
that is, Mike, you make a great point. Everyone always acts like these teams who let up a bazillion sacks and then let their shitty players go. They're like, how could you let this left guard who allowed a pressure on 37% of his pass blocking snaps go? And you're like, well, maybe just getting someone else in there.
Maybe they watch the games.
I don't know. In Armstead's case, for like 2 or 3 seasons, we were like making DFS decisions based on whether or not he was suiting up. So he actually seems like maybe someone we didn't.
I do promise I've never done that. I never for a second have considered Teron Armstead.
Well, Armstead's out this week, so
I think it's very reasonable to think Waddle is like easily wide receiver 1 in Miami. I have a tough time. This doesn't have to be bad for him. I have a tough time seeing Miami being better than they've been. Like they have plateaued the last 2-3 years, unable to beat the good teams every time. And so here we're running it back with the same guys. Doesn't it have a pretty fair risk of just completely falling apart?
I don't care if they beat the good teams. I don't care at all if they beat the good teams. That doesn't matter to me.
Right. Yeah. Fantasy wise maybe it's good.
Like
but
I think everyone's too low on Miami. Miami was like last year was by far the most impressive Tua's played, in my opinion, other than that he got injured for like a month in between. And like they easily would have made the playoffs last year if Tua doesn't get hurt. They had to replace him with like the worst quarterback. They were playing Tim Boyle in one start.
I don't understand how they didn't see a Tua injury coming. That is still crazy to me.
That's nuts. And they obviously should have had a better rookie or better backup quarterback. And all of that is totally true.
Well, now they have Zach Wilson, so they figured it out.
And it's just, I don't know, like I'm kind of a Tua hater. Like I've been kind of a Dolphins hater previously. And I feel like now people have decided like, nope, it's over for the Dolphins. Like, I don't know. I still think McDaniel's good. I still think Tua is like at least what he is. I still like their players. I'm in on Miami this year. I feel like I'm on an island with that though.
Interesting.
Well,
good.
It's a bias thing, or like I'm IKBing my own ranks when I don't take Waddle, because we've been ahead on Waddle slightly like the entire time. We are today. We have him just ahead of Juwan Jennings. And if I saw the two of them, I'd be like,
I also love Jennings, by the way.
Yeah. So it's just,
I also love Jennings. Yeah.
It's good to check in because that's probably one where as a drafter, I'm not seeing something that I actually am as a ranker. There is upside. There's definitely upside. Like if Hill goes, we would all change our tune on Waddle in a big way. And I agree with you that especially if you give the entire season, right? Like he quits on the team in week 12 or something. Like that's pretty big. That's pretty big for tournaments that pay out at the end of the year.
It's also the mid-fifth. Olave and Waddle are side by side in the middle of the 5th round. And what else are you supposed to do? Chuba Hubbard is the running back.
Well, you used to take Omarion Hampton, and now you can't anymore.
Yeah, he's gone.
You can't. Right, like that's the thing. You can't just take Chuba Hubbard and get 14 points per game. You have to take sexy wide receivers who score 11.
I do take Hubbard. Hubbard's a value. The only reason I don't take Hubbard in the 5th is because I can take Olave and now get him in the 6th. I was the Rico Dowdle guy last year. I don't understand why Rico Dowdle's made this big of an impact on Chuba. He's still the dude there. Like
Hubbard's a great pick. We did that.
Yeah.
Another week. I mean, I like him in every way, but depending on how your draft is going.
Isn't Hubbard like the most quintessential, like if you were to come up with a poster boy of like what are all the traits of a dead zone running back, like wouldn't it be like the veteran who's on his second contract, who's just produced, but we're still drafting him in the 5th round, who's like a volume play on a kind of bad team? Like it just seems like it's like checking every single
but he was
box.
one of the
Or we
most
decided
efficient
the
running
dead zone
backs in
doesn't
the
exist
league.
anymore.
Hubbard was one of the most efficient running backs in the league.
Right, but like in year 4, like
what you don't remember is
Hubbard
that
rocks now. Like we forget everything else that he's ever done.
I think Hubbard's a really good fit
Hubbard,
for what they're doing in Carolina. You know,
2019 at Oklahoma State. Some of us will never forget, Jacob.
Yeah, I don't know.
Apparently you've forgotten.
It is 6 years ago.
To be fair, I'm not
he's
taking
even Canadian.
Hubbard.
I should be in favor of this.
I am with Jacob on Chuba in the sense of he has every marking of a dead zone back, so I don't take him. But I expect to be wrong about that. Like it's one of those where it's like
I think Kenneth Walker is more of a dead zone back than Hubbard.
Oh,
they're side by side in the rankings.
I'm very into Walker.
I take Walker
this though,
because
have you considered this? Chuba's Canadian. You're getting a 25% tariff on every one of his yards.
Is that good or bad? I can't remember. That's probably good for our economy, right? That wouldn't cause any kind of massive disruptions, correct?
And by the way, we do see Elic Ayomanor on lists here. I think he's my number 1 overall player. He's from Canada.
He's close to mine as well. And I started at the reason why he's not all the way up is because I started kind of out on him and I was taking the Iowa State guys instead. I've been fully I've been fully Ayomanor pilled though. I just see he's like arbitrage Tet. Obviously they don't play the same way, but just like Crane, you and I have noted this, that the only big guy in the class gets a huge draft capital boost.
Yeah.
And so the only big guys who can play are Higgins and Ayomanor. They're
and
the
Harris.
only ones.
We sure
I don't know. I don't know what to make of him.
Are we sure Higgins can play?
I think Higgins can play. I mean, Higgins is. I mean, I think he'll go 2nd round, but you know, on the Underdog pod with James Palmer, they were joking about. I don't know if they were joking, but they were talking about him going in the late 1st. So Higgins, at the very least, I think the 2nd round stuff is real on Higgins. I don't think Higgins is very Mingo-y. He was productive for a 4-year guy. He's more
okay.
I think he's more like a Dobbs type or like a Michael Gallup or something. Like it's not the most exciting thing that's ever happened.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know. I just don't think it's Mingo's like literally like, I mean, he was out of the league, you know, his second practice almost. It just didn't work.
Ayomanor did absolutely, like, this isn't weighing into my analysis, that he absolutely put Travis Hunter in a locker. 298 yards and 3 touchdowns against Travis Hunter, which the one route, the one against the sideline where he, like, Hunter is basically hanging off of him like a rag doll as he scores. I'm like, I just got to be honest. I can see that working in the NFL. I can see a real desire for that skill set. And he's better after the catch than a guy of his size should be. Obviously, there's some JJ Arcega-Whiteside potential there.
Oh, yeah.
But
that's the same school, right? It's the same school comp there?
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, guys who scored a
I
bazillion touchdowns for these awful Stanford teams.
Higgins, for me, I was going to say, sorry, Pat. Higgins feels to me like a huge landing spot player. I talked to Matt Harmon last week, and he comped him to Keon Coleman. And when the Bills got Coleman, it's like, all right, well, that's a great slot receiver, you know, potential right there. But they insisted on playing him outside and didn't get much. Yeah. So I feel like Higgins might be, I don't know why do you draft a rookie to play in the slot?
He's not going to get drafted to play in the slot because
he's not. He's going to be
I hope that he is, but I think that the team that wants a slot wide receiver, they're just going to take his teammate. And the team that wants an X wide receiver, they're going to do sort by height and weight, and then they're going to do Higgins, and then they're going to try and square peg round hole him the entire year. I don't know. That's my nightmare about with him.
Yeah, at least I know his reception perception was quite poor, but I'm a little bit less nervous about Higgins than I am about. Like I was pretty nervous about Coleman last year because Coleman, like, there was just a lot of evidence that he couldn't separate. And it was kind of like, yeah, but he's really fun after the catch. And he can kind of like body people up and bully ball his way. Higgins has generally been described as kind of as a bit of a smooth separator at times. I know the reception perception makes me much more worried about that, but there's at least like differing opinions, I think, on how Higgins wins. He's not just like a contested catch bully ball guy. He's like a bigger guy who uses his frame and that kind of thing. Okay. So yeah, I think he will play X, and you know, maybe it's a little bit scary in terms of what the floor is, but he's been so cheap, and he's still much cheaper than he will be if he goes early second round. He's going to rise from here if he goes early second round. He's been a value the entire tournament. He's been an extreme value for much of the tournament, but he's still a value relative to the expected draft capital. I just don't think, like, if he goes to like Carolina in the second round and is their clear cut X receiver to start the year, like, we're just not going to be like, well, his route running is a concern. Like, no, he'll go 9th round or whatever, 10th. You know, it's the idea that you're still getting him in like the 130s or 140s is. I'm just going to take that. I'm going to take that.
Yeah,
it won't be available later. On Ayomanor, I was drafting a ton of him early, and then I had Eric. Which is like, yeah, he moved up, but then he kind of moved down because I had Eric Froton on my pod, and he mentioned that a freshman Emmett Mosley was kind of the dude at the end of the season last year, and
I looked into that. It was basically he had one crazy game.
Okay.
He had a game with 190 yards and 3 touchdowns that Tet still had 100 yards in. Like because some people were mentioning that in my YouTube chat as well, so I went to go look at it. It was not as if Ayomanor, I have no idea how to say it properly.
Yeah, we got to get that one.
Not as if he went to 0. This was not a one of those situations at all.
No, he didn't go to 0, and his numbers are good. Like Ayomanor's numbers are good. And, you know, he's a 3-year guy. He was very productive over 2 years. He redshirted and then was productive for 2 years. So on paper, his profile is like really good. Like in my model, I'm like, he's a 4th round pick. Do you hate him? It's like, no, he's still pretty good. So, I mean, There's just like the fundamentals of his profile are really strong. So I kind of stopped taking him for a while. And then he did fall because he came up into like the 150th range. And then his draft capital has dropped, like his expected draft capital. I thought was going to be a second round pick. Now I'm not sure he'll even be a third round pick. I could see him falling to round 4. That's probably my biggest concern with him at this point.
All the guys,
I don't
all the
always
guys
see
that
him
I
in top
like,
100s.
all the guys I like, the NFL doesn't want to draft anymore, and all the guys I don't like are apparently going to maybe be going in round 1. So we'll see how that goes for Dynasty.
Might be a lesson in that. Might be a lesson in that, Jacob.
Yeah, take more Trey Harris, right? That's the lesson.
I don't know. I don't know what to make of Trey Harris.
Harris isn't safe for round 2, certainly. I
No,
see him going.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's dropping, and I'm getting concerned. But what does the NFL know?
Pat, you have Tyler Allgeier as your most drafted running back. I mean, it's running back 53 or something like that. Anyway, so fine. But is there like a second piece of that other than just like the handcuff potential? I mean, I don't know how big a role you might think he is slated for in Atlanta. He's been pretty good when he's played.
I think he's really good. I don't think they're one of the few teams that I mean, this could burn me, but they don't strike me as a team that's very likely to add a meaningful running back addition. I mean, there's so many running backs in this class that they could easily add someone late day 3 or UDFA or something like that. But he's,
imagine
very
they
good.
had Khalil Mullings, Pat.
Yeah, well, that would actually, he's kind of Spider-Man meme with Allgeier. He's very good at the role they have him slated for, and I think very capable of stepping up and being the lead back if needed. So it's kind of like Zach Charbonnet, but, catches fewer passes and goes like 60 picks later or something. So, yeah, just kind of a clean handcuff bet. Now, it could get blown up. I just think that there's so many other running backs down in that range where I'm like, you could be 0, you could be a 0, you could be a 0. And I think Allgeier is probably someone we're drafting in a similar range. Like at this price,
you can tell Kareem is
would have a bag
now.
too.
You're a dad. You're a much more responsible man because instead of that being RJ Harvey or DJ Giddens,
no,
this is
I reject Shope's framing here because I have a ton of RJ Harvey and DJ Giddens. I have a ton of all these rookies. Shope's making me look like
let the record show.
It's on the page. It says right there, Tyler Allgeier, 26%. I can do
both. I can do both.
I've been on a train. I do like how Jerome Ford looks on a list like this, Jacob.
Thank you. Yeah, I think he looks pretty good. He goes at like
Jacob Chesley handshake emoji.
I take
just
Ford
where
too,
he would go if he was the backup run. Like there's several literal backup running backs that just go ahead of Jerome Ford, who is currently the starting running back on the Browns. And I don't know. Are they going to draft someone? Sure. But like when? I don't know. Like it's in theory, it's an analytical front office that has a terrible team that has several needs. I wouldn't be that surprised if they just draft their first running back in like round 5 or round 6, and it's just Jerome Ford as the starting running back on the Browns. Is it that valuable to be the starting running back on the Browns? Probably not. But like if you can just be any starting running back, like you're getting it for free. So he to me is kind of the Rico Dowdle from last year, where one guy that for whatever reason everybody looks at like fragile, all go in like round 8, and it's like, this guy stinks. We don't even need to think about him until we've taken Tajay Spears or whatever. So I don't know. I think Ford is just a nice, easy click personally. And if they get Kirk, like he'll dump it off to him. He can't move.
I think they will get him. And it's whatever running back they pick, it won't be in the first 2 rounds. So, I mean, he's going to fade at least a lot of these guys. There's no way the Browns pick a running back at the first pick of round 2, right? They're going to not pick a quarterback at 2 overall, and they're going to pick their quarterback at 33 or trade up.
Oh, this is my favorite comment. Yeah, but Dowdle is good. First of all, shout out to salted cod. They call it bacalhau here in Portugal. Been eating it every day. But also, like, imagine making the case for Rico Dowdle at any point last year. And everybody was like, he's the worst player of all time. I was doing it.
I lived it.
Crane wrote the definitive Rico Dowdle best ball fantasy football
and like
analysis
he was
last year.
One of my highest drafted players as well. And I was out there on Twitter and people were like, look, dude, you're nuts. Zeke is so much better than this guy. And now like people are telling me like, oh, you can't draft Jerome Ford. He's nowhere as good as Rico Dowdle. Like, get out of here with that salted cod.
I do think the upside on Ford is a little it's not inspiring, and that's where
No, it's
I
not.
tend
But
to
he's picked 150.
Yeah, I've tended to take forward, like I don't know what my exposure is, but I've taken him a decent amount in part because I'm like, I know I'm about to take a bunch more rookies, and I already have 2. So let me go ahead and grab a guy who actually is front weighted in his production.
And was in the winning, wasn't he in the winning Best Ball Mania lineup, or he was in the optimal Best Ball Mania lineup like 2 years ago in week 17? Like he was good down the stretch last year too. Like he has, I don't know, people act like he has 0 upside. I just don't think that's actually true.
That's the Browns Jets Thursday night, Davis. That's El Nino with Flacco and Jerome Ford. That's that game, isn't it? That's El Nino Browns Thursday 100%. Night football.
Yeah.
Sorry, not making fun. I'll just, if there's anybody else you guys want here, great. For me, Najee Harris was like from the beginning, and I guess that worked out all right. We'll see what happens in the draft. Slayton, my top 5 receivers are 4 rookies in Darius Slayton, who I think is good. And as we talked about last week, when we talked about Russell Wilson, Pat, I do think there's a fair chance the Giants are just like mid this year, and then Wilson, who doesn't really get hurt, stays on the field to the end. They sort of ride that out. Coach lasts. They talk about it all year, like whether he's going to be back the next year, probably not. But I do think there's room for Slayton to hit there. I guess I have to fade Travis Hunter. I need the Browns to pick Travis Hunter, though.
I think that is probably going to happen. I think if Darius Slayton is one of your most drafted wide receivers, that is as a function of drafting the rookies. Because you get to the end and you're like, God damn, man, I just need someone who's going to be active week 1.
Right.
You're like, all right, I better take Slayton.
And that's why I have Diami Brown, and that's why I have Rondale Moore. That's right.
Yeah. If you have Adam Thielen, if you have MVS, you may have drafted too many rookies.
Yep.
God. Yeah.
No one wants to
draft
note
more rookies.
No one wants to note that I'm the only one of us brave enough to take a real stance in the first 2 rounds. 20%. I guess you Pat, with
what are you talking about? The chat's been flaming me for 30% Brock Bowers.
20%.
I mean, there's no chance that my Brock Bowers number is lower than 25. I can't confirm because I can't see my account, but it's got to be 25 minimum.
I think it's crazy that anyone has an issue with 30% power. To me, I'm
I agree.
Only 30%.
I agree.
He should be going like 102. It's literally Puka Nacua, except he plays tight end. But
he's
people think
eligible
that
at
that's worse for some reason, and I don't understand why. You can play them at the tight end. You can play him in the flex. It's a fantastic way to live your life. People think that people think it's like because he plays tight end, every time he catches a pass that they just deduct like 1 point from him because like tight ends can't score
I can
that
tell
much.
you
Like,
exactly why people feel that way. One time Gronk got hurt as a first round pick, and one time Kelsey was a bad first round pick, and that is why people think Bowers is a bad second round pick.
Great.
Big
simple
awesome.
As it is.
I'll have more than 30 in the end then. It's just
big quarterback upgrade. Big quarterback upgrade.
Huge quarterback
Chip
upgrade.
Kelly.
Huge.
Chip Kelly.
No,
my favorite thing. This is where people were telling on themselves. As people were like, "Oh, you can't draft Bowers." Actually, I saw a bunch of people were like, "Geno Smith's actually a downgrade for Brock Bowers because look what the Seattle tight ends did," and it was like look what JSN did because that's the comparison. Like Bowers is like an intermediate slot monster. He's not like AJ Barner or whatever the hell like was going on in Seattle last year. So it's a huge upgrade.
So here's a comment. He's a tight end. He didn't lap the tight end field. He didn't lap the wide receiver 1 field. He's unlikely to provide enough value in 3 wide receiver. That is just I like that. That's like such a delicious stance to fade. I gotta tell you, because he was a fucking rookie last year. You're concerned he didn't lap everybody? He was a rookie, man. He just had the best rookie season ever. He gets a quarterback upgrade, a coaching upgrade, multiple coaching upgrades, a Pete Carroll organizational upgrade. He's got a much better offensive coordinator.
He was the only tight end to score 200 points in half PPR last season, and he did so with what? He only scored 6 touchdowns, I think.
We wouldn't hold a wide receiver up to this scrutiny.
No, we wouldn't. We're not holding Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas up to the scrutiny. They go ahead of him.
I think the 3 wide receiver thing might be the most important part of this because
Bowers scored more points than Ladd last year.
Right.
Okay. Structurally, getting a guy who can nuke at tight end is much more valuable than getting, another good receiver, right? Like that, we need receiver depth, but like if you have the one guy who's going nuts, if you have Puka at tight end, that is a much more valuable thing than being deep at receiver.
Bauer scored more points than Mike Evans. Bauer scored more points than Cortland Sutton. Than I mean, it's really not even close. Actually, how much better he was than like if this dude just runs a little hot on touchdowns, like a little. You're talking about you basically are he could have a Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley-esque advance rate.
100%.
I mean, he scored less than 2 fewer points per game than Neighbors and Thomas did last year. Plays a position in which your points go further. He doesn't actually have to match them in raw points. If he
doesn't
matches
even have
them
to
in raw
match them.
points, he's a substantially better pick. But he went from Aiden O'Connell / Gardner Minshew / Desmond Ritter.
Desmond Ritter played
average to better quarterback play. And
Desmond Ritter didn't just play; he played in like week 15. He nuked Bauer's advance rates in the playoff weeks. It was awful. It
was horrendous. And whereas Neighbors is getting he had terrible quarterback play last year, but he's probably going to also have terrible quarterback play this year. And Thomas, it'll be hopefully Trevor Lawrence plays the whole season. But it seems like it's the clearest upgrade in situation. He also gets to a Chip Kelly offense. They're probably going to go from like a boring, sad offense to a top 5 pace offense. I don't know. I don't
we're doing this too, like with the Bears.
Position.
With the Bears, we're always willing to wherever Luke Getsy left, right? And he left the Bears the previous year. And then
great point.
Comes to the Raiders. We're always like, oh, Getsy's gone. Well, why aren't we doing Getsy's gone? And then Chip Kelly's in. Ryan's saying he's an Eagles fan, so he hates Chip Kelly. But for fantasy, he's stamped. What is stamped? It
means good.
Jacob, explain slang to me.
It means good.
I can tell you that
stamp of approval.
Oh, okay, good. High play volume, gets the ball in his playmakers' hands, etc. Yeah, he runs the ball a lot, but he also throws it a decent amount because they play fast.
Chip Kelly's Eagles went
to the playoffs.
They were 2nd, 5th, and 12th in the NFL in yards, despite having only terrible players. Now
they went to the playoffs. Nick Foles.
They had a decent fantasy offense with the Niners when they won 2 games.
Well,
Chip Kelly's good.
Not really.
Carlos Hyde was helpful.
That was about it.
I honestly think this is it. People are anti-Bowers because they've been burned at early.
I just told you it's because Gronk got hurt once and Kelsey was bad as a first-round pick. That is what happened.
Yeah. It's also probably a function, in terms of percentages, ownership, a function of your other options there. I think what's interesting about Pat's list is that McBride is on it too.
Is also high.
Yeah, McBride is a smash.
So
the round 2 return is disgusting. I can't imagine clicking anyone but Trey McBride. I wish I could just forego my other pick and only take Trey McBride at that turn.
Yeah. You're getting
I'm not going to outdo that.
You want a tight end. You want a tight end in your first 2 picks.
I mean, look, I draft the guys I think are the most mispriced, and I think Bowers is a smash. To be honest, I expect to have more Bowers than I do now in Best Ball Mania because I don't think Jeanty will be here at the 1-2 turn. So that's one of the reasons I don't have more Bowers is because I take Jeanty when available. I'll take, the Neighbors, Thomas, Amon-Ra. I'll prioritize Jeanty there because I think that price changes. I think he moves up when he goes probably most likely 6 to the Raiders, 10 to the Bears. If he falls past there, he could go to the Cowboys. At that point, we're talking about maybe the Broncos trading up. The landing spots are exciting for Jeanty. So
he is going in the top 10. He's going
where Gibbs. He's going right behind Gibbs. He's going to go at the 106, 107.
I agree. I think if anything, I should probably be talking myself into taking Jeanty over some of the receivers, but I just have a hard time doing that because I think they're also very well priced. But anyway, that's one reason I actually don't have more Bowers. If Jeanty wasn't there, I think my turns would just be whatever wide receiver plus Bowers every single time. And I would have an absurd bag and I'd have to maybe for exposure reasons be all right, I got to come up with other ideas. But he's just a clear-cut target there. And then you go to the other side and McBride, I feel the same way. I'm like, this dude is so much better than the other options here. So what am I going to do? The biggest issue I have with this stance is that I don't have a huge bag of Kittle. I'm right at 8% Kittle because I prioritize Kittle when I don't get one of those guys. Pepper Tony's been talking about how Kittle is one of these guys that's also, going to score well. Yeah, I agree. I take Kittle too. I think Kittle, probably the biggest gripe I have with my own position is that I don't have more Kittle. I would like to be solidly overweight Kittle, but I don't think he's like as screaming of a bargain as the other two guys are because of what I think Bowers and McBride can do kind of on a weekly, week in, week out basis of just like owning that position. Whereas Kittle, we are a little more comfortable with the profile. We know it's probably going to be a few spike weeks a year that kind of shift the landscape, which is also really valuable.
I just don't get why do we have to choose? Like, why can't we just take them all? I mean, if I have Bowers, that does not preclude me from just taking Kittle anyways. Like, I would happily have a Bowers Kittle team.
I'd like to defend myself in the chat. Last year, McBride just isn't that good. In a truth serum, I was on truth serum and I said, "Are we sure he's good?" Okay, and you know what? He absolutely proved.
And thankfully, I was there to help you. Thankfully, I was there to tell you Marvin Harrison Jr. stinks and Trey McBride is good.
That's
yes,
right.
Mike.
Just became the highest paid tight end in the NFL, by the way, McBride. If
he's probably
true.
Good.
Buy into that.
Yeah. And every other player around him sucks. Like, I'm not taking Terry McLaurin over Trey McBride. That's ridiculous.
How high are you going for Jeanty?
Well, after the draft, he's going to be the 106. So pretty much I'm comfortable taking him after Neighbors and Bowers. So 10, 11, you just start taking him there. And you can take him first and then take whichever wide receiver comes back to you if you want. So
that was late enough for you to get to 20% by picking him no higher than like 110.
Well, remember, I started drafting these when the contest opened, and when the contest opened, he was like, I think
mid-second.
19.
Yeah, mid-second.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think I just took him like every time.
Mm-hmm.
That was smart.
Yeah.
When I said going in the top 10, I mean the NFL draft. I mean, I think talking to people every day, I just don't think there's any way he doesn't go. I mean, I had Evan Silva on WGR yesterday. He's like maybe 4 for Jeanty. So I just don't think he slides.
The Patriots should just shut it down. They should just like turn the lights off.
I wouldn't do it if I were there.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
There's a new rumor going
The
around.
instant they take a running back at 4.
Somebody else could.
They don't have any linemen.
Jeanty's so good he doesn't need linemen, bro.
I'd be so upset.
Oh.
There's a new rumor going around that the 49ers, they have 11 picks that they're looking to trade up in the first round. Wonder who that would be
I've
for.
always, the big worry for me with Jeanty
was
is that
the
49ers would take him. That's a
very
which is real. And if that happens, then guess what? You won't want.
But
Jeanty.
I think
it's over.
You won't want Jeanty.
I don't think that's true. I think you won't want him at his price, but whatever his price settles at, I guarantee you I'll have 30% if that's the outcome.
Well, no, I'll tell you this.
All I
if
have to do is bet
Ashton
on a guy
Jeanty,
with a chronic Achilles injury to not play. And then if he doesn't play, then Jeanty's in the best place ever, and you draft him at 101. Like, what's going to happen is Christian McCaffrey is going to be done for life in week 4. We're going to do a show that says, how would you draft the rest of the season? Every single one of us will be like Jeanty 101.
Jeanty 101.
And then these absolute jabronis are going to push him to a round 3 ADP. I'll need the assistance of the entire ship chasing Patreon to help my wheelbarrow full of Jeanty to bring it across the road.
I would just like to point out that Jacob is currently in Portugal screaming about Christian McCaffrey's Achilles. That was
I just beat me to it. He's got to have some stem cell situation going on there. We can't ask. We can't ask.
I visited the shop. It looks bad. I don't trust it. I was there this morning.
Oh my god.
Well, while we're talking rookies, as we move forward here, Travis Hunter. So I think you guys also sort of like nodded out loud when I mentioned, I feel like the buzz now as he goes to Cleveland at 2. I think that makes more sense than Carter for the Browns. I mean, you have Garrett. Sure, you can have both.
I'd take Carter, man.
You would. I like
you
Hunter.
just like good luck. Good luck passing on us.
Not.
You're not gonna.
I think Travis Hunter should be the first overall pick. He's a $25 million wide receiver and a $25 million corner. He's more valuable than quarterbacks, than all but the best quarterbacks in this league. He's Shohei Ohtani.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree.
On the next slide, you'll see among the risers, he's highlighted moving up 6%. Only Brian Thomas, although that's from 10 to 9, moving up more. But what do you guys see the market like? What are your reactions to how people are either drafting Hunter or talking about him? We're already starting that conversation. What is his fantasy value for this year likely to be?
I mean, I think we're just going to find out the NFL views him as a wide receiver, and he also views himself as a wide receiver because wide receivers make more money. Ran routes at the pro day. And of course, everyone's doing the bit like, that he was running TikTok routes at the at the pro day, like just to like make cool videos for his social media. But I think there's a great thing in life that if you're trying to unravel a mystery, everything is always about the money. People are always going to do what leads them to the most money. NFL teams are going to do the money thing.
Except this week, Davis. This week, that's
bad week for this point.
It's a bad week to be making this point. As the global economy comes to a screeching halt.
Well, that is about money. It's about losing money, but
you know what you don't see on the risers sheet? The Dow Jones. That's on the next slide.
No. You do not.
Hunter stands to make way more money as a wide receiver. I think it's really that simple. Is he going to play defense? Absolutely. In Travis Hunter's mind, if you put Travis Hunter on Truth Serum right now, would he say, I'm going to play 100% of the snaps at wide receiver and cornerback? I think that's what he would say. And then I think he's going to get into an NFL game and be like, dude, this shit is way too hard, bro. I'm playing wide receiver. That is my.
Well, that's why I actually don't think he should be the number one pick, is because I don't think that he's long term gonna play both ways. It's one of these takes where I just like hope I'm wrong. I hope he plays both ways. I like fun things and I like fun football players, and so I hope. I don't even want to make the case, but that's part of it for me with Carter, is that like he has an established, extremely valuable role as an elite edge rusher prospect. So, but yeah,
what's less fun than the Browns and the Giants, right? I mean, that's sort of push through that. Their offense could be Cousins, say what you want, any of your favorite third round Dylan Sampson running backs, Hunter, Judy, and Njoku. Does that have to just be a dumpster fire? I mean, maybe that's kind of good. It's the Browns.
If Travis Hunter plays full-time receiver, I don't think we want to get too caught up in the situation, especially because we've not been pricing the situation at all. The situation we've been pricing is he a cornerback? So if he's a full-time wide receiver, his price is absurdly low, and that's why he's starting to rocket up. I mean, I've been taking him in the 70s. It's 80 ADP, 89. That's a lie. If you go in and say, I'll take him around 89, no, you won't. He'll be gone. So if you want him, you got to take him kind of at the end of the 7th, maybe early 8th. But he's going to continue rising, I think, until we start to hear a little bit more about him playing cornerback, and maybe we never hear that. So it's not one where I want to just go, oh, this is getting expensive. Like, if he was a wide receiver and we were like, yeah, I mean, he'll play some cornerback, we'll use him, in some important parts of, important packages, whatever, but he's mostly just going to be a receiver. I think he could easily flip Ted. So there's just a lot. I mean, not just in terms of raw picks, but like the value that you gain from going to like the 8th round to the 4 or 5 turn, or maybe even to the 4th round, is massive. I think people they're like on the right track here. It's one where I wish I had more ahead. When he was like, the risk of him just straight up playing cornerbacks really scared me. I'm starting to feel more confident. So's the market. And I'm just trying to I'm willing to charge out ahead now at this point and make sure I get enough.
Yeah.
Good.
Retweet.
Right. Fallers, congrats to Jordan Whittington for that's a streak he's got going, falling again this week. He keeps hitting it. Breece Hall is the name here. I think there's a lot to say about Hall and the way the Jets have been talking. Maybe it is believable that it's a committee there. I think he's become a tough click.
Oh, I smash Hall right now. I think he's you're giving him in the end of the 3rd, early 4th, and all I have to do is fade Braylon Allen, who's one of the least efficient running backs in the league last year, and Isaiah Davis, who barely played.
We don't have to say hurtful things about young men.
I'm sorry, but the numbers are what they are. It's a
you have to fade Aaron Glenn.
I guess it's a new regime, and they're like, we want to see our guys. We want to see what they look like. and people are like, "Oh God, does that mean they're going to trade him?" Like, I don't
hope
think so. But if they
hope
do,
so.
would that be bad? Yeah,
Trade him, take Jeanty at 7, and then install Jeanty into a
But-
timeshare with Braylon Allen.
But not getting traded. Nobody's trading for Breece
No
Hall
one's
or
trading
James
for
Cook.
him.
They're going to draft
No.
the rookie who's just as good. So he's going to be on the Jets. It's year 4.
I guess I would also maybe this is like a disagreement I have with kind of the assessment of this rookie class, but like Breece Hall was a much better prospect than everyone in this class except Jeanty. I think he was a better prospect than Hampton, and Breece Hall's been good. Now his success rate last year was really rough, but he's still explosive and he can catch passes. So, you can talk about the contract stuff and the longevity and all of that. From that perspective, sure, you might want to move to a rookie. But like for this season, who would like you rather have in your offense? I'm still pretty high on Breece Hall as a player. I don't really that's a big part of it for me, frankly, is that like it feels like people are kind of cooling on like what Breece Hall even is.
Exactly.
He's pretty good. I don't know that he's amazing, but like I think he's just as good as Devon Achane. I would probably like say they're pretty equivalent. And I'm getting like literally at the same turn, I can skip Achane and get Hall when it comes back to me.
This time last year, if you said that Breece Hall was the best running back in the world, it wasn't considered a hot take at all. He had just come back from a devastating ACL injury and put together an absolutely elite season on a completely non-viable offense. And this is like an even easier argument to make, but somewhat similar to the argument I was making for Waddle and the inverse of what I was saying with Chuba. I just think we get so attached to whatever we're hearing right now, whatever we just saw in the most recent season. That's the only thing we get to consider about this player. And like we go through amnesia before whatever happened this season. But like those other things still happened. And he's not 31 years old. We wouldn't expect him to be falling off. We have seen several other running backs and other position players in football have a down year and then have a good year. It's not always perfectly linear, and not everything needs to have a perfect explanation that we can latch ourselves to. So Breece Hall was an incredible prospect who was fantastic until he got hurt, was elite after coming back, did some things good last year and certainly some badly. But I just have to bet on the player. If he gets traded, fantastic. If he stays on the team and all he has to do is beat out Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, I don't give a shit what the Jets' plans are, what their coaches are. They're going to see them all in the field, and I'm going to bet on my guy to beat these other guys' breaks in when he gets out there in between the lines. So all Fields? The stuff that I'm seeing, like all of the FUD, I mean, it's not ideal. But like,
it's not ideal.
But like that's the stuff that would scare me if I had to take Hall at like the 108. Like when we're talking about a guy at the 3-4, he's not even getting priced as being a guy who has to carry my team. He can be a spike week player for me. Like it's just
he can be Travis Etienne 2 years ago and easily pay off.
Exactly. Like all of the stuff that I hear whenever we have high pedigree blue chip players, and all I hear from everybody is about, oh man, like the situation, what the coaches said at a press conference. What if they do this? What if they do that? That is like food to me. Like that's just like that's exactly the situation that I want to bet aggressively into.
I completely agree. But I'd like to thank Copy Paste Dates for saying Breece and Achane come on, because honestly, I felt a little bit bad about that comparison, because in reality, Breece is a much better player than Achane. We've never really seen it from Achane. He put on weight.
I think Achane scored more points last year than Breece ever has.
Achane, he was incredibly inefficient as a rusher after putting on weight and trying to be a lead back. We could see pretty quickly, as in like 2 weeks from now, that the Dolphins think that wasn't a great plan and that they now have a new plan, and that Achane's going to go back to that explosive role that he was in previously. Now, he did take a step forward as a pass catcher and caught a ton of balls, which is why he crushed from a fantasy perspective. He had 1.45 yards per route run last year, which is fine, but it's frankly like not that different from Breece, who was at 1.26 last year. He was at 1.76 the year before. So you want to talk about like who's actually flashed as a really efficient receiver? It was Breece. Even as a rookie, Achane was only at 1.14. So, and that was the year obviously when he was incredibly efficient on the ground. Not to say that Achane's like bad, but I think Breece is a really good player. So I don't understand where like the Breece Hall is bad narrative started, but it seems to have really taken root. And I'm like willing to fade it pretty aggressively.
All I'm thinking about is, well, that's all very fair and good. Wouldn't the Jets, the way they're talking, maybe it's right to tune it out, but maybe it's not. And they have 3 running backs they've invested in that have done different things well. I could still see it being sort of a frustrating team plus Fields with whatever
That's all
that
priced
is as
in
a
in
rusher.
round 4. That's all priced in.
Well,
in
it's
round 4.
ADP is 32, so it's like, mid third is where we're at here, and it's coming down. It's not. It's getting better as a price.
But I think I'm drafting a top half of the first round talent. So to me, it's like I'm betting on he's the guy that we drafted in the first round happily last year. Because if he is that guy, then I don't care what their plan is. He's going to get on the field, and if he's that guy, he's going to be so much better than Allen and Davis that his snap share is going to go up and theirs is going to go down. If he's not that guy, then the bet probably fails. But I don't really need everything else to hit in terms of guessing the situation. I just need him to be that guy, and everything else takes care of itself.
Everything will take care of itself.
That's to me the bet. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But I think that's really all you have to worry about is just how good is this player.
What's the win total? 6.5 at the most, probably. For the Jets.
Yeah.
All right. Rookie quarterbacks. Doesn't sound great for Shadur Sanders lately. I wonder what.
Do we want to talk any more Fallers, or are we good on that?
I mean,
if
Dobbins is kind of an interesting one because he's now cheap enough that you like honestly don't care who he signs with. He was a terrible pick before, but I find myself
I haven't clicked him really, but that's interesting that you're okay. Maybe
when I get to where he's ranked, I'm like, shit, I felt good about where I ranked him. But I just want RJ Harvey again,
I just want RJ Harvey too.
I just want so it's like
that dude is so fun.
I know.
Yeah. I just feel like it's the rookie running back wave year, and there's no team. I mean, last week, I know, Pat, you liked Shipley in the last call pick. Like, what team is less likely to draft a running back than Philadelphia? I mentioned Atlanta today. Those are good points. I just think everybody should do it. You get to Saturday, and there's so many interesting guys. I don't know what the total ends up being, but close to 32 running backs maybe in this draft, and some of these guys show up, and who needs J.K. Dobbins? Who needs Nick Chubb? Who needs the Gus Edwardses of the world? And they're just
so
done.
I think I wrote up 27 running backs. The final piece came out this morning covering the running backs. And I will say, when I got to once you get to 25 or so, you're like, okay, I'm at the end. This is it. These profiles are what you would expect for potential UDFAs. But before that, there's dudes who you're like, there could be real upside here. So yeah, there's a lot of running backs who are going to get added to depth charts that we feel good about now that we're going to get worried about later. A lot of these guys will bust, but even if a third of this running back class hits, it's going to shake up the league in a huge way.
A huge way.
Yeah.
And there are, I mean, we've been doing this all off season, but there is an unbelievable number of teams who either need a running back 1 or a running back 2. How many teams can you say are definitely not taking one? Even
Carolina
let's just say
Panthers.
Mike, your Bills,
they should.
The Bills, they have Cook, they have Ray Davis, they have Ty Johnson.
I think they're very live to take.
And
one
then
now.
you're and then you start thinking about it, and you're like, well, they don't really want to pay Cook. Ray Davis is 37 years old. Ty Johnson could be easily cut. Maybe they do just take whoever.
Dylan Sampson.
Dylan Sampson. Sure.
Bam. And then
So
you watch him, and it's like, what? Maybe this guy should play. I don't know.
Let's do it real quick. Teams that are not going to take one. I don't.
Atlanta is good. Atlanta's good.
Jets not going to take.
Atlanta needs a. Atlanta.
I don't know. I wouldn't
RB3.
rule out the Jets.
Jets could take
I wouldn't
one.
rule out the Jets.
All right, all 32 teams are live to take a running back.
Yes.
During this analysis. Then I think.
I mean, the Eagles are pretty low. The Falcons are pretty low. The Lions are pretty low.
Ravens probably unlikely.
I don't know, man. I think the Ravens could easily take one.
I
think
do
the Ravens
too.
really need one. I think the Ravens.
I do
need
too.
one,
I think
round
they're
2.
fine with Keaton Mitchell as their running back 3.
Plus,
They don't. They are.
The
He wasn't
Eagles
even
and the
activated.
Ravens. Teams like the Eagles and the Ravens don't have other needs. So they're going to get to Saturday morning, and the best player on their board is going to be one of these running backs. Why not? Running backs get hurt.
Davis Maddock is going to have so much Caleb Johnson at pick 115 when he goes in round 2 to the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, that'd be a 40%.
Not in
That
my
would be,
drafts. You're not going to even see him, Davis. He's going to go 2 rounds before you even queue him up.
If the Ravens have a handcuff running back who weighs 230 pounds, it doesn't even matter who it is. If they take frickin' Lan Larison,
There we go.
Damian Martinez.
Damian Martinez.
I just think Caleb Johnson with his breakaway ability and get him out moving in his own scheme. Like, I don't know. He seems like such a good fit where he comes in. It's like how Dobbins was to Mark Ingram, and then he's the Dobbins to Henry, and then he takes over next year. I don't know. That just seems like a thing I see happening in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way, like Derrick Henry's success for the Ravens last year really kind of underlines the success of that formula. Like, it is much better for the Ravens to have a really good rusher, right? That Lamar unlocks efficiency for the running back next to him, but it's actually pretty cool if that running back's good, weirdly. So, I don't know. I don't know if they want to go back to the Gus Edwards zone here. And Henry, although he's defied time again and again and again, at some point, the wheels will come off. So why wouldn't, in a great running back class where you can get a guy in the 3rd round or 4th round or 5th round that could potentially be a successor, why wouldn't you do it?
Yes. We have a Lan Larison slide, by the way, in Davis's honor today.
Lan Larison, brother. Respond to my messages. Come on the podcast, brother.
This can't hurt.
He might be too big time. I was listening to NFL Stock Exchange. Connor Rogers was talking about Lan Larison like glowingly. He almost put him in his top 20 running backs in the class.
Dude, I'm like reaching out to the University of California, Davis, trying to get a hold of this guy. Like, what?
Is it named after you?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
I really like the choice of picture here, Zach, as Davis talks about how he just can't get this guy's attention as he just like happily eats candy.
I love this dude. I love this guy. This guy is the platonic ideal of a Davis Maddock running back, like a small school guy who just like absolutely crushes the passing game.
This guy could be your brother. Dude. There's like a passing resemblance here.
Straight up. Yeah. Lan Larison, come on. And he's got the mustache.
Did you get the guys like the Laube by going through the school? Sometimes when they're out of school, they're done with the connection.
No, Laube followed me on Twitter because I was hyping him up so much.
You might need the agent then if there's an agent working with this guy.
So I can't.
And you turned Larry into a literal meme, so that probably got his attention.
I can't even figure out who his agent is.
That's a bad sign. That might actually be pretty easy to get.
This guy. What I'm saying is, Lan,
go to rodeo. Go through rodeo. Apparently, you might be able to track him down in that sphere.
You know what? I'm gonna Lan Larison. I'm gonna figure this out by the end of the day.
Lan, by the way, Lan.
Hang on a second. His brothers are Ringo and Rainey Robinson Larison. Robinson is his. What is? How can his one? His name is Rainey Robinson.
There is a complicating factor, which is that there is an actor named Lan Larison. Like there's like an IMDb page for Lan Larison, so it messes up the Google results.
The same name?
Same name.
Lan Larison.
They should have named him Lan
Robinson. It sounds like a Chevy Chase bit. It sounds like a Chevy Chase bit in Fletch. It's James. It's John Cocktoaston is what we got here. Lan Larison.
Probably half brothers is yes, of course, half brothers. Yes.
By the way, do you guys know there are 2 Max Muncies in Major League Baseball who are not related and have the same birthday?
Yeah, Athletics and Dodgers. Wow. The Athletics one is like a very surprise call up. People were not expecting him. It's ruining Google Sheets everywhere.
Max Muncy, and they have the same birthday. By the way, that's just
like also the same year or just the same date?
No,
same day.
Okay,
pretty good.
Dodgers Muncy's like 8 years older.
Pat, take us where you want here. We've got rookie quarterbacks, running backs. We jumped ahead here to get to Lan Larison since he was brought up.
Yeah, let's talk rookie quarterbacks.
Doesn't sound great for Sanders lately.
Yeah.
No. I mean, honestly, at this point, just hoping he gets down to 200 so we can pick him for our game. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
199. 199.
Almost.
I made a note of that. Yep.
I joined David's corner. I've been pumping out my rookie content, and I decided it was enough already. I just made Dart my QB2.
Okay. There we go.
In Dynasty. That's not a best ball take, but I just think he's better. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. I do think Dart remains really fun pick. Like Continues to have underrated rushing upside, I think. I think he's a more interesting deep thrower than Sanders. And I don't know, is the draft capital difference going to be that big? I can't tell if the Sanders falling is good or bad for Dart, because on one hand, Sanders going early helps Dart because then every other team knows, like, if we don't take Dart, we're not getting our quarterback. Or is it possible that Dart could even overtake Sanders at this point? I'm not sure.
If Dart goes ahead of Sanders, I think that is a bit of shark jumping, because no quarterback, and this is pro Dart apologia, no quarterback had an easier job than Jaxson Dart. Just like the most schemed open shit of all time.
Did you just say is that how it's pronounced? Did you say apologia as apologia?
Yeah, if you're saying it in the Greek, wouldn't that
pronounced,
be how you said it?
Is it properly pronounced as apologia? Have I been like a dumbass my whole life?
Yeah, I think that is the this is the phonetic spelling.
Chat, help.
I'm not sure.
This is it in the. This is it in the.
About?
It's like an old Latin word.
That looks
like
like
you're saying like Appalachia.
I think that would be apologia.
Yeah, according to Google, it's apologia.
Okay, all right, I'm wrong.
Yeah,
somebody owes somebody an apology.
One of those words I've only ever seen written.
It's all right. You can apologize to me later.
Yeah.
A classic dunk.
Evan Silva yesterday said Milroe 80-1 to be the second quarterback picked.
He got invited to the green room, brother.
He got invited to the green room.
So you might be saying, well, you might be saying, oh, they invite everyone. They used to invite like 35 dudes. They only invited 13 guys.
If there's enough negativity towards Sanders and even Dart, I mean, he had the Senior Bowl, right? Or the Shrine, one of those. Then maybe there's life for Milroe at that price. 80-1 is 80-1, but I think it's right now my chips are on that Sanders falls and Dart isn't much, and who knows what could happen. Maybe one quarterback in the first round. That sounds insane. I'd be under 2.5. I know that.
I'm still over 2.5. Yeah, I think that most likely the Giants and the Browns will go the blue chip route, and that no one will be willing to trade up to the Patriots at 4 for Sanders. So that's obviously, from where we started, a pretty big fall. But I really struggle to see how, like, the Seahawks are on the clock and Sanders is available, and they're not just like, yeah, we're going to take Sanders here.
Same for the Steelers. Too,
same for the Steelers. Yeah. And then I think, like, you're looking at another team, like one of those teams or another team maybe trading back in. I mean, at a certain point, you have to start to consider the Browns as a team that's like, hey, instead of trading for Kirk Cousins, what if we trade back in the first and grab a Shedeur Sanders or a Jaxson Dart? So I think that
Giants could do this as well, right?
Giants could do it as well. The quarterback thirst is just too strong.
Nobody wants to talk about that has no quarterback right now, sitting at the 14th pick in the draft. I wouldn't be that surprised if the Colts went and took Sanders or Dart.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I hadn't even considered that. Wow. And I also would say, so Dane Brugler, I was listening to him on Mina Kimes' show yesterday, and she gave him the choice at 1 to trade back to 3, and he got, obviously, pick 3, next year's first from the Giants, and a second to go back from 1 to 3. He stayed put, and he stayed put and took Ward. No, I would have also accepted, but he was like, nope, give me Ward, which I bring up to say that, like, Ward, when I was first paying attention to stuff, was viewed as kind of like maybe the 20th to 30th best player in this class. And then he solidified himself as the top quarterback, worthy of the number 1 pick. And now sharp people are saying, I don't even want to trade down for a good package because quarterback's that important, and this guy's potential to be a really good quarterback. I think at some point the quarterback thirst is going to come back around. Like, once Ward's off the board and once the blue chips are off the board, people are going to be like, right, quarterback. I really, really need one of those. And these teams without one are going to make it a priority to get Sanders and Dart. I think these dudes are both going first round.
Okay. Rookie running backs we've talked a little bit about throughout the show. Jeanty, Hampton. It could be, there's a lot of possibilities on Friday in this draft. I mean, so many analysts have their favorite guys. Who's the guy with 3 names? Ja'Cory
Krosky Merritt.
Krosky.
Yeah, like I'm watching. Check the mic, and
story?
there's not really.
This is from also NFL Stock Exchange, but I tried to. I think this is correct. He redshirted one of his early seasons, but he like traded numbers with another player, and that player went on to play for the rest of the year. And so then when his final season, he transfers from New Mexico to Arizona. He plays one game in Arizona, and the NCAA is like, hey, you played that whole season. We see the number out there. And they shut down his season for eligibility because his jersey had played too many games.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I knew he didn't really play this year because I like just from spreadsheet stuff, but wow, I had no idea that was the reason. That's nuts.
Yeah, so there's no final season on him. Sorry?
If that ever happened to me, like I would like commit several crimes. Like I wouldn't be able to handle that.
I mean, they tried to do it. They tried to do it to Devontae Walker, and then they were like, "Wait, we actually can't do this to Devontae Walker because we need Drake May." Is basically what ended up happening. Like basically North Carolina was like, "No, we're actually not allowing this because Drake May needs wide receiver." There's a new 9.45 RAS guy, Jared Epperson, running back from the University of Augustana.
I'm just the University of Appalachia.
Not the University of Appalachia.
I think that's probably Augustina.
You've got this one right.
I've never heard of this. But he
Augustana. Augustana's right.
4.46 at where's the weight listed?
Apparently in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Augustana is correct.
Augustana. There you go.
Move on.
Shout out.
Correct.
Shout out to me.
Yeah.
Where's the weight listed on the RAS thing? I guess he hasn't weighed yet.
Although I have it in Illinois, but anyway.
But his closest RAS comp is Christian McCaffrey. That's why it was interesting.
Wow. Well,
okay.
Time to write another article, Pat.
More 9.5 RAS guys. We love to see it.
Yeah, I guess on the rookie running backs for me, I have you guys shifted at all how you're because what I've been feeling is like I still don't. It's okay. It's hard to get a sense of where these guys are going to be drafted when we're talking about anyone outside the top 100. But I have seen, increasingly people are putting out like top 150s and stuff, and Bashaw Tootin is not necessarily included. Devin Neal is sometimes included pretty high, but sometimes not included at all. Dylan Sampson's pretty regularly included. RJ Harvey is kind of more and more included. DJ Giddens is like a little like Tootin, but maybe like.
Do you think that is big
in terms of
school
the
bias? Because I bet it's school bias. If I had to guess, it'd be Dylan Sampson played a bunch of nationally televised games for Tennessee. Bayshell Tootin played for like a abjectly terrible, like not fun to watch Virginia Tech team. Devin Neal played in the Big 12 and had some big games, but Kansas is not a football factory, as it were. That honestly,
I could see that.
That would be my guess.
Many games.
We're far enough into it though that I'm starting to worry that like Tootin might be a day 3 pick, like he might be around 4 or 5 pick.
Probably is around 4 pick, right? Or day 3 pick. I mean, I would say he's
going to fall
guys
that
you're for sure. I mean, the only guys that I would say I have like 7 guys that I feel pretty comfortable are going to go day 2 or higher, which is the big 5 plus Scatterbo plus Sampson, and then everyone else you're just kind of hoping. And I don't know. I should probably have more humility, I guess, because ultimately the landing spot in the draft capital is going to do so much of it. But like, there's just so many dudes. I just have a few guys that I like, and I kind of just click them over and over again. Like I like Giddens
Who aren't you clicking?
I like Harvey a lot. Well, like I don't click a lot of. Well, I guess the guys way down the list because like of the guys that are like actually drafted, I'm pretty open to all of them. Like I like Martinez a lot. I know some people don't.
Yeah, no, I do.
I think Sampson, Scatterbo are good bets for draft capital. And then I really love Giddens, Tootin, and Harvey. Like those are, I think, the most interesting guys. I guess Devin Neal's a guy I don't take that much. And then I haven't taken Jarquez Hunter yet, but like that's like my dude.
I've started to mix him in. I think
Jordan
he's.
I
I'm seeing him. I think
mixed in
McShay
Jordan
had him at
James.
150. So
Hunter?
he's starting. McShay had him at
Good.
150, which is like the first time that I've
That's
seen
exciting.
like a draft analyst be like, Jarquez Hunter is a good pick.
His,
so that was
all
that
of
was
his
exciting.
metrics are fantastic. Like
Yeah.
He's really exciting. If you could get like even round 5 draft capital, I would sign for happily.
Guys, Davis has to run. Davis, do you want to throw down
Right.
a last call pick, or do you want to just send it in and we'll update it later?
Yeah, let me do a last call pick. My last call pick is going to be Torrey Hunter. Torrey Hunter will be my last call pick.
All right.
I think
Horton?
he might be trending.
Torrey Horton.
Do you mean Horton?
Torrey Horton. What did I say?
Hunter.
The Twins
Hunter, who was a
outfielder.
great center fielder
Wow.
for the Twins.
Wow,
Yes.
you could tell. His
His
I
ADP's
started-
way outside the top 200.
I've started to transition my brain into baseball. Yeah, Torrey Horton.
Let's go.
Sounds like basically the only reason he would fall at all would be medical stuff, but the NFL team likes him. I got to go do the Masters Calcutta over on the Swolecast
Oh.
channel. So I'll see you guys there
Can't wait to watch it.
whenever this is over. Later, everyone.
Bye. Yes. All right. So the last call, ADP 200 and higher. We'll change the rules again and tell Davis later that.
Yeah.
So we want to make that. I think once you pick a guy, that's yours. He's yours.
That's your guy. Yeah.
That's your guy. And I counted, it's 24 weeks actually until the season starts if we go every week. And so you can kind of
Nice.
build a team out. Like you guys have picked quarterbacks, and maybe, we all pick one or two, like we're drafting.
That's
team
kind of
for
what
real.
I would like to basically
That's
best
fun.
ball score it, to build a best ball
Oh,
team
that's
out of
fun.
it.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Because
I mean-
otherwise it's like a little, we just should take any quarterback with a pulse should be taken as opposed
Yeah.
to, yeah.
And if you want to jump to it, I don't know if you want to go longer here first.
Can I go?
But if you want to, well,
Go for
sure.
it.
We'll do last
Yeah.
call now.
I just don't want to get
slide up.
sniped on my duck-footed hero, Harold
Oh.
Fannin.
Oh, that's all right. Good for you.
Harold Fannin Jr. to Pat. Jacob, you got one?
You're
Ready?
going to get great closing line value on that, because if he goes day 3, with the amount of streams that Chip Chasing is going to be doing this summer,
Yeah,
his
I
ADP
know
is
for
going
a
to be
fact.
like
I'll make
137.
it-
And then it doesn't mean that he'll score any points, but like he will get good closing line value.
That's
Unfortunately,
correct.
that's not how the game is scored anymore. So, I was laughing, by the way, because I listened to your pod with JJ, and I did literally the exact same thing that JJ did. I also played as Bowling Green, and I kind of knew who he was, but it was before he was a sensation. Like I knew who he was because I'd picked him in like a college fantasy thing before the season, and I was like, oh, like let's see what this guy's all about. He's 90 overall in this game, and oh my god, his stats. I thought I juiced his stats playing college football, but he had better ideas in mind.
That's amazing.
All right. I gotta pick some loser here. Who's already been? Has anyone?
I
has
can
anyone picked,
go if you want to think about it. I've got one ready.
Sure. Rock and roll. Okay.
I'll take Jatavion Sanders.
All right.
If we are building teams, tight end could get a little raunchy in the 200s, and Fannin's a good pick with that in mind too. But I like the Carolina setup. I think Sanders is good. I got super excited for him last year, but he had that gruesome kind of injury on the sideline late in the year, kind of robbed him of some potential there. So like the player, like the value.
I'm gonna take a tight end as well. I think he's gonna probably go in round 2. LSU recently put him in a mural in their locker room, so that's worth a little bit. It seems like he's probably going to be the 3rd tight end drafted. I'll take Mason Taylor. I don't have anything like really good to say about him other than regurgitating the opinions of apparently NFL scouts, but yeah, I think he'll get drafted, so I'll take him.
Being Jason Taylor's son and a mural.
Wait, is he Jason Taylor's son? I didn't know that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And he just replaced the first letter of his name.
I guess.
Oh my God. I mean,
All his kids are
Occurred to me.
acing. All his kids are acing.
That hasn't occurred
That'd be
to
like
me.
if I
This
named
is
my
like-
kid Makeup Sanderson.
Yes.
Makeup status. Matt,
It's
I
just
guess I
that
could do
simple
Matt
sometimes.
Carrain.
Yeah, you should do Matt Carrain.
Matt
I am
Carrain.
Matt Carrain. This is my son, Matrick
This is
Carrain.
my son, Matt Carrain.
Do you think
Jason
that's,
and
like, all of the
Mason.
rest of
Yeah, I guess they just straight up rhyme too. There's something about it. It didn't like that. Never occurred to me. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Do you think all of his kids are like that? Like, do he has like 5 boys and it's like Mason, Vason, like,
Yeah.
and Tayson and
All the
Tayson?
Asons.
I think he is also the nephew of Zach Thomas. That's correct, right? So the bloodlines are strong.
Did Jason Taylor like marry Zach Thomas's sister?
Thomas's sister, I think. Yeah.
And is she named Mac Thomas?
Yeah. That would be. You're watching too much White Lotus, brother.
Yeah. Look, I'm just a pleaser.
We can't wrap before today's mystery comp. This is some great
Okay,
work.
Do we want to talk rookies or do we?
If we can save it.
I'll talk rookies with you.
Yeah, let's
Oh,
talk
okay.
rookies.
We can do it. We can do it.
Okay.
Okay, so this is this kind of, the Travis Hunter stuff, like he would be for me the top wide receiver in this class. In part,
Agreed.
that's draft capital, but again, Jacob's saying he would take him 101. So the draft capital is
I said that 2
it's a
months
signal.
ago, and you guys all laughed at me. And then I listened to your ship chasing thing, and I think it was Ron said it. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, bold call." Nice.
Good point, Ron.
Yeah, I'm pissed off.
You
I
had
was like,
gotten
what
the
the
thought.
fuck?
It had incubated a little. Yeah. So the thing. So again, Higgins, I think is still clearly a value because, like, if you think
He is.
about like a second round rookie with some like concerns about his profile, like that's not that different than what Luther Burden might ultimately be. Now, I like Burden better as a prospect, but I don't think it's like crazy. Crazy different. And so the ADP gap, it's just going to close too. So like, even if you think it is crazy, like I would still recommend taking some Higgins now while he's completely free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like the league is really lukewarm on the group. So maybe you get 3 or even 4 in the first round. Then I don't know. Maybe running back is the new receiver this year. And I'd be worried about any of these guys if they didn't make it. If they made it to Saturday, like that's sort of a tough one.
Yeah. Okay. You were
Yeah,
saying in a rookie draft.
That's also what Ron said on the mock draft.
Okay. Well, maybe I was zoned out.
Anyway.
For the record, I still think that's crazy.
All right. Either way, not
it-
gonna
look,
be necessary. Not gonna be
On that, to ask you guys, is Hunter the 102 in Dynasty?
I mean, no,
It could
because
be.
we don't know how much wide receiver he's going to play. If he was going to play wide receiver, then to me it's clearly a tier of 2 players at the top, and it's Jeanty and Hunter. But that's not where we're at. I think I haven't done like a full ranks yet because I'm working my way through the positions. But I think tentatively I have him at like 106 right now.
Yeah.
But now that he's going to the Browns, like I could even boost that higher because
I think
until we know he's playing wide receiver full time, I'm not going to take him ahead of Jeanty. I'm not going to take him ahead of Hampton. I'm not going to take him ahead of Ward. I don't think I'm going to take him ahead of McMillan
In Superflex, right?
So maybe I'd put him at 5. I had him behind Henderson.
That's I
the
think
last
where I
week.
took him. I was on Establish the Edge, and I think that's where I took him. I was like, why am I take Egbuka or one of these other running backs? Like, just give me Travis Hunter at this point.
Yeah.
A question about Kyle Williams.
Like
I like him too. He's free. I've just taken a ton of Jack Bash. Seems like the draft type is maybe cooled slightly on him, and Kyle Williams is fairly live to go day 2, I think. So I'm trying to mix it up with these later receivers, and I still take Bash some, but I think Kyle Williams is very clickable and hasn't. I mean, he's risen in the sense that you'll see him go on like the 17th now when he used to go undrafted, but it's not like it's like crazy prohibitive or anything.
Yeah, I think he's a totally reasonable pick.
He's the Chris Sims
this is
wide receiver 2, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's the only risk with him is that I think he's probably a slot only in the NFL. And so if you're looking at like a round 3 pick who's a slot only, like it's a slow burn and then you get up to 70% of routes, whatever. But I would mix in all these rookies. I like the guys that I think have the upside to play full route shares and work down the field. So I mean, I understand that Trey Harris is like falling. But like I just still think he's really good. I don't totally understand why he's falling. And I'm hopeful that he at least goes round 3 still. Like if he goes day 3, I guess we're just screwed. And he's like falling into like the Seth Williams, Tyler Wallace like continuum. But like if we can still get round 3, I'm pretty happy to just bet on him as a talent because I think he's quite good. Like to me, if it was just if I was in a cave and I didn't know anything about draft capital, I think he'd be like my wide receiver 4. So I don't really get why he's falling, but he is obviously.
Yeah, he's in a range for me where like the draft capital, this class isn't like super strong. There's a big group where I'm like, tell me what you think, NFL, because that really it matters for the opportunity. It matters for like how good these guys actually are. He's kind of in that group for me. So the fact that he's falling, I think, is concerning about like what his profile even is. But he is getting close to the point where I would take it. But again, like, why would I take him over Jayden Higgins, who's gonna get drafted first?
Yeah, I hate that.
So
this
I
is
still
Harris,
think
right?
Harris, yeah, I think Harris has a little more room to fall, or I mean, certainly Higgins has more room to rise. On Kyle Williams, he played 82% out wide, so I don't think he's.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he can play outside.
All right.
Yeah. And
Okay.
how big is he? Maybe it's a size thing.
No, I'm
tight ends.
I would be cool with that.
Tight ends. Yeah, let's look at tight ends.
You know, at least two of us, maybe it was you and me, Jacob, had Loveland on our exposure lists.
Yeah.
I think it was you and I. And he's 4-1 to be the first tight end drafted. It sounds a little bit to me like that could happen. I'm thinking of the Kincaid year where it was always Michael Mayer, and then Kincaid was first tight end drafted. I don't know. Do you guys have a thought on how you think the league likes Warren? How much? Because some people have him to the Jets at 9 or whatever it is, top 10, not 9.
I think that, I mean, I trust the market. Like the market thinks that Warren's going to go ahead, so I think that that's pretty likely. I can say for myself personally, I don't think that the gap in draft capital is going to be that wide, and I just like Loveland more as a fantasy player. So I would bet at even odds that Loveland outscores Warren this year. Like he's my dynasty tight end 1 in this class, for sure, and he would be my year 1 tight end 1 because I think that, you know, I'm not like the world's greatest tight end blocking film evaluator, obviously, but
Same.
like. I did a big episode with Max Toscano, who's like, I trust a ton with tight ends. He has an entire Substack just devoted to tight ends. And he was pretty emphatic in his belief, and I share this belief from what I've seen, that Loveland is not a difference-making blocker in the way that Warren is, but is at least like a good enough threshold blocker that he never needs to come off the field. And so if I don't have to have concerns about his route rate, and I'm getting the same route rate on Warren as I am on Loveland, I think Loveland is the more polished receiver. I think Warren is, you know, maybe more interesting after the catch. But Loveland to me,
I think he
does
definitely
all of the big wide receiver stuff that we normally love tight ends to do, but he does it while also meeting a blocking threshold, which most of the people who can do what Loveland can do can't. Like he's like Mike Gesicki in Dallas Goedert's body. I find that very interesting.
Kincaid he's another one who doesn't meet that, right? That's the point.
No, he's
Loveland's blocking grade at PFF was pretty poor. So that the concern for me is, does he meet that threshold? But like Chris Sims had him as the best run blocker in the class. So like there's stuff that's happened. Like there's some disagreement, I guess, in terms of how good of a run blocker he is. But to your point, we don't need him to be amazing. We just need him to be out there on play action plays so that he runs routes.
Right.
I'm optimistic ultimately. I'm more optimistic than like the number on his pass blocking, certainly. I do think that Warren like definitely is a better yak guy, and that is kind of his potential superpowers, that it's, you know, in the same mold as Bowers, where you're going to use him more underneath and then he gets moving. Loveland is more of like the big wide receiver. It's sort of Dalton Kincaid, but it works is kind of the comp I've heard. So,
well, the thing is,
different
if you're going
types
to
of
be
guys.
this big wide receiver, where you want to use that type of tight end, ideally, is up the seam against linebackers. But if you're Dalton Kincaid and you can't block, then you never get to go against linebackers because teams will just play nickel every time you're on the field. And then you have to do that stuff against DBs and you don't really get the speed advantage. But if Loveland, and you know, like I said, I don't put that much stake in my ability to judge tight end blocking. But like if I'm right and he can actually block and play Y, And so he's able to be that big wide receiver running these seam routes, but he's able to get matchups against linebackers. That to me is really, really interesting, obviously from a real life perspective and a fantasy one.
I agree. So Brugler put it as that basically Warren is the safer, ready to go guy, and Loveland is the higher upside swing, which even that framing is different than I thought the NFL felt, back in January. Like I thought Warren was the clear-cut tight end one. Seems like Loveland, I think he's live to be the first tight end taken for sure.
Me too. That's all of this sounds just right to me.
I just think this take the whole idea of like Loveland not being a blocker is something I've only heard in the last month. And maybe it's because of this PFF stuff. To be honest, I don't put any stock in PFF college grades. So I'm not sure that's good or bad.
Check Kyle Pitts and you might be slightly swayed once you see Kyle Pitts.
Fair enough. I did set it for Bowers because he was favorable, so I decided in that case
it was good for Bowers. Yeah.
But again, opinions are split on that, Jacob. And he did play at Michigan. He probably has to hold his own physically.
Well, this is the thing. So like because Loveland, like Warren really is a 2024 revelation. Like he wasn't a guy that was on the radar much prior to this season, but Loveland has been. Like Loveland's been like a Devy tight end one of the 25 class for years. And, there was a whole debate this summer. People were talking about who's the better tight end prospect, Brock Bowers or Colston Loveland, because Loveland's the complete tight end. He can actually block. Bowers is only a big wide receiver. And then it feels like because Warren is decidedly a better blocker and is like a supercharged blocker, that I feel like people have now talked down on Loveland's blocking as a comparison point between him and Warren. But I don't know where it really started that Loveland's blocking was. It wasn't part of his profile. It's discussion, it seems like, until very recently, that he might not be able to be a sufficient blocker. That never seemed like it was in question from the college people, at least, that I trust and follow to look into that stuff more than I'm capable of doing, until the last couple months as the NFL draft conversation has evolved and these comparisons have been between him and Warren. I think there's like I would say Loveland's blocking is much closer to Warren's than it is to like Fannin's, who's just not a blocker at all and is just going to need to be an NFL slot wide receiver.
Well, I think the part of the conversation is what type of blocker are you? And Loveland can be like attached to the line on like traditional run plays and be a guy you're like not hiding. I think Fannin is more like he's a big slot, so he's probably like chipping someone or maybe blocking a defensive back. So it's like different assignment type of stuff. Fannin rates decently in the run blocking grades over at PFF, but it's not like if you don't get asked to do certain things,
correct,
you don't get a negative grade for not having been asked to do them. So I do agree. I mean, I think Loveland has a much higher ceiling on the blocking side, specifically from, are you attached to the line playing wide tight end on play action? And I care about that because of touchdowns. I care because I don't want you not involved around the goal line because they don't trust you to run block. And Fannin has a much lower floor on that, although has such a lower floor that I think it comes back around and he could be the Isaiah Likely in 12. Like, he can be out there in 12, but he wouldn't be in 11 run blocking.
I mean, Fannin's going to have like the Jawan Jennings, Drake London, Puka Nacua blocking assignment tree in terms of like being the seventh guy in. Like he's not attached to line. The question with him is just route rate. Like really the question is, can he be as good as the guys I just named? Like Jennings, Shakir, London, like all of these F wide receivers. Can he be this guy? Because if he can be that good, if he can actually win against NFL DBs in nickel, then it doesn't matter because then he can have an 80% route rate as a slot wide receiver and you're happy. But if he can't, if the advantage is he needs to go against linebackers, then it's tough. And I just keep going back and forth. I mean, he's obviously a massive boom bust swing, right? Because
is he a day two pick?
Playing like fullback.
He's a day two pick, I think. Yeah, I do think so.
At best.
I think even guys that I've not really heard say a nice thing about him have him in top 100s. So I think he does go day two.
That helps.
Yeah, and he's, I think someone that if he's a third round pick, there will be a plan for him. Like if he was a fifth round pick, you're going like, oh no.
Right.
Is he depth? Is he, maybe we'll find something. But if as a 3rd round pick, there's going to be like, yeah, we think we have a spot for this guy. I wish he was a 2nd round pick. I'd be more excited. But the fact that he's fallen and I think stabilized at round 3 isn't as big a red flag to me, especially because he's gotten basically free in these drafts.
In round 2 still could happen.
Yeah.
Still could happen.
Possible. I think the nice thing with Fannin too is we're going to have an asymmetry in how good his landing spot actually is and how good the market perceives it to be. Because I think the market is going to be looking at him as a tight end. Like we just had this conversation with Bowers. They're just obsessed with the letters TE. So they're going to be viewing his landing spot through a traditional, is this a good tight end landing spot? When I think really we have to look at their slot wide receiver, because that's like Kincaid's problem. People think Kincaid's problem is Knox, and I don't think that that's actually true. Kincaid's problem, in my opinion, is Shakir, because Shakir can do what Kincaid can do as a slot wide receiver and a blocker, but he's just a way better receiver. If Shakir didn't exist, they could just play in 12 way more, and Kincaid could just be their slot wide receiver. So but with Fannin, for instance, like, you know, I'm obviously in Colts Twitter all the time, and people are like, oh, why don't we wait and take Fannin? It's like, that would make no sense because you can't play him and Josh Downs on the field together ever. But if he goes to somewhere that doesn't really have a slot wide receiver or that has a small slot wide receiver who's much worse than Josh Downs, if you went to like the Giants, for instance, and it's like, what would you rather have, Fannin or Wan'Dale Robinson? It's like, well, he doesn't actually need to be quite as good of a receiver as Wan'Dale because he's actually probably a way better blocker than Wan'Dale, who like block anybody. So it's not like you're up against like a big slot. You're up against a more traditional slot. So it's going to be weird to dissect. I'm excited to have a landing spot on him, and then I'll have more of a take on
I would, you know, like this would be probably not a good landing spot from the point that you're making, but actually pretty fun if you were to go to the Vikings, where they're like,
totally,
you know, this unlocks some new things we can do. Probably 65% route rate at best, you know, but maybe down the stretch we're up to that.
Right, because like Jaylen Naylor gets the fuck out. Yeah.
Jaylen Naylor is booted, and now we have like a much more interesting package that we can use.
It's a cool idea. They just don't have the picks, but it's a cool idea. You know, like they have 4 picks, right? Is that Minnesota?
I think they have a third. They have a third. I think so.
Get ready to learn Johnny Munn.
But yeah, the other thing I guess I would note, because these 2 comments, Fannon's going to be a well-paid fullback one day. Fannin will keep the water cold. I think Brett is much more correct. He's either going to be out there or you know, on the bench. I don't think he's not. We just got burned by Benson, and so I think that's part of it for people too. But and the floor is really low here as well. What'd you say?
I think to take, like, I don't know if it's going to happen, but if I were an NFL team, I'd play him at fullback.
You'd play Fannin at fullback?
Yeah, because that's how you make sure he gets on linebackers. Because then you have to account. Then he's actually getting picked up by linebackers instead of safeties. I would play him as an H-back. Like I would turn him into Kyle Juszczyk.
Okay. Well, that's not really what I think his game is, but I think he's a big slot.
Put him on the Rams.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Put him on the Rams. All right. We haven't even talked hockey yet.
We should mention Elijah Arroyo, who is going to get drafted ahead of Fannin, almost certainly. I've had a harder time getting excited about him. His profile, you know, on paper, just not very good. But he tore his ACL. That cost him a couple years, and he's going to get drafted high for route running traits and his movement ability at a pretty big. He's a traditionally sized tight end who can move really well for that size, specifically like as a route runner. So if Mason, the funny thing about this class is you talk about, why take Tyler Warren when we could wait and take Mason Taylor, or wait and take Harold Fannin? You should wait and take Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor is your discount Tyler Warren, is what I'm trying to say. Elijah Arroyo is your discount Colston Loveland. Harold Fannin is this like random ass player that doesn't make any sense and no one can figure out if he's going to be good or not. He's not an arbitrage anything. He's just
your
like
discount Luther Burden.
He's your discount Luther Burden. Yeah, fair.
We'll see how much of a discount that ends up being. Maybe not huge. All right, mystery comp. Here we go. This is for Jacob for his last call selection. Phoned in last week.
I love that that's also T. Higgins silhouette.
Yes. Is it going to be is T. Higgins our answer? Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think it's going to be T. Higgins this time.
I don't know.
love that they made
Look
him
at the
as a
silhouette.
Oh man.
Any guesses?
You know, I'm just filing a grievance because I explicitly picked Aaron Rodgers the week I wouldn't be on the show, so I wouldn't have to defend it or acknowledge it. And now here it is.
Turn into a graphic.
That's what happens. This is what happens. We all saw through it. We all saw through the move there. Our answer is Mason Rudolph.
Wow.
Tough.
They'll be competing.
Rudolph was actually pretty decent last year. Got to give him credit.
Yeah, that's true.
You do?
If you only look at like a few stats from college, Mason Rudolph looks like a great prospect. If you look at some other stats, he stopped looking so good. But
that's tough. That's tough having that be your picture, where Myles Garrett is ripping your head off. That's a tough.
I actually thought he was like
image.
standing strong and stiff arming him. I was looking at the helmet. I didn't realize the helmet was off his head.
The Thursday night game where he twisted his helmet around and ripped it off in the end zone.
Yeah, that's not so good.
All right, what are you guys up to this week? Well, Jacob, you're in Portugal, so you're up to that.
Yeah, I'm hiking to the highest point on the island tomorrow. Excited for that. I think Pete did that hike according to my Twitter like 10 years ago because he just posted a photo from this same island.
Cool.
So that was cool. And then flying back to Canada on Sunday. Yeah, this weekend. So I'll be back live in studio for ADP chasing from here until the draft, which is coming up incredibly soon.
Pretty
I
soon.
I already have quarterback breakdowns, did a deep dive of the top three. I did the first half, or really the first quarter of this running back class out. And then I'm gonna have
You're gonna need some long train rides for the rest of it.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I went pretty deep on the first 5. I'm gonna have the next 7 up within a couple of days, and then after running back 13 or after running back 12, it's gonna be a much shorter posts for each individual one, and then we'll have wide receivers by the time I'm back in Canada. So stay tuned to that. We're cranking everything out on TV, and see you guys back soon.
Did you get to see Ovechkin?
I didn't. I woke up and I watched the video. But unfortunately, basically every hockey game has happened in the middle of the night. I've been staying up intermittently for the occasional Jets and Leafs games, but it's been between that and it's funny that we have the Law and Order intro music because I could not get the AirPlay to work on any of the TVs in this place. But there's like this one channel that shows 24 hours of Law and Order Special Victims Unit with Portuguese subtitles. So anytime I'm just chilling, writing, and want something in the background, it's we got the Law and Order music coming right in.
Ovechkin was early, so I thought you might have had a look at it, but it was a really great moment. Pat, did you know about this? Alexander Ovechkin breaking the all-time goals record in hockey, Wayne Gretzky's record. You didn't know?
I didn't know. It's big.
How about that? Didn't even know.
Wow.
Look at that.
Okay.
Thank
you, boys.
A lot of Ranger games.
Let me just mention we've got
sorry, yes.
Yeah, my running back stuff just finished up on the site as I mentioned. Michael Dubner's going to have an article out tomorrow on predicting closing line value on the rest of the running backs as well. And then I've got my wide receiver stuff that I'll be working on. Getting that out as soon as I can. And then I might do one more quarterback article just so I can talk about some of the depth of this class outside more for Dynasty. But look for that.
Really want to do that Tyler Shug article, huh?
I think he deserves to be written up. I've taken Shuck at the 3-12. I closed out a 3-round rookie mock draft with Shuck. I feel strongly that was a good pick.
I just did a real Dynasty rookie draft today, and I took Tyler Shug at the 4-12.
That's a steal.
Oh,
one QB.
Got ourselves in. No, super flex.
Yeah, super flex. To be extremely clear, these are super flex drafts.
Still, pick 48. You could go in the second round.
Do not shock your oysters in single quarterback, please.
Yeah, please don't chuck your oysters in single quarterback. All right, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody. 2 more of our shows, ADP Chasing before the draft. Should be a lot of fun. We'll see you next week.
All right.